Hey everyone, my name's Tom, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to achieve this blur effect in Unity using the universal render pipeline. In the past this has been very easy to create due to the support for grab pass. However, that is no longer available for the universal render pipeline due to performance reasons. However, the method I'm going to show you in this video works perfectly. So I've created this sample project for us today. As you can see, there is a UI panel on screen displaying something very important. However, it's a bit bland, it kind of just sticks out. So we're going to turn the background of that into something that looks even better thanks to this blur. So the first step is to download the file from the description. I've linked the GitHub repository where you can find this. I have actually forked this from another project, so I didn't create it. However, I've simplified the download so you can easily import it into any project. So simply head over to the Releases tab over here and download the Unity package. Once you've done that, simply open the file and Unity will open and show you this dialog here. Just click Import. Now, as you can see, we've got a bunch of errors in the console, and that's because I haven't actually set up the universal render pipeline yet. So we need to head on over to the package manager. You can open that in Window Package Manager and change packages in project to packages all. Now I'm using Unity 2020.1, so this may look a bit different for you, but the procedure is basically the same. So you want to scroll down and find the universal RP here and click Install. Note, you won't need to do this if you set up a project using the universal render pipeline template. So that has now been installed, and if we head over to our scene, you'll see nothing has changed, and that's because although we've installed the URP, we need to actually enable it. So we're going to head down to our assets, right click, create, rendering, universal render pipeline, pipeline asset. We'll just leave the default name and press enter. You'll see that it's created a pipeline asset and a pipeline asset renderer. Select the renderer and under renderer features click add. And you'll see this option called quasi blur. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I'm going to say it. You just want to click that and you'll see that it creates a new quasi blur. Under settings, you can change all the settings associated to the blur effect. Firstly, we're going to change the render pass event from after rendering transparency to before rendering transparency. The blur material we need to set to quasi blur feature. We need to change blur passes to a number. I'm going to choose 8, and downsample I'm going to select 2. You can always change these to customize the strength of the blur. After we've done that, we need to head into the URP asset and enable the opaque texture. Finally, we need to go into project settings, which you can find in Edit Project Settings. Go to Graphics and drag the URP asset into this slot here. You should see everything turn pink in your scene. That is a good sign, because we need to now upgrade our materials. So just go to Edit, Render Pipeline, Universal Render Pipeline, Upgrade Project Materials, and click Proceed. So now in our game view, everything should be working. So to actually achieve the blur effect, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the image in my panel, which acts as the background, and move it to the top so it's rendered at the back, and I'm going to rename it to blur. Next, we need to assign a blur material to this new image. So in the material here, we're going to choose the unlit blur. Now, the lit blur reacts to lighting, and the unlit blur does not. So for UI, we definitely want to choose unlit. And then I'm just going to reduce the opacity of the background image to something like 100. And if you look carefully in the background, you should be able to see this blur effect in action. And if we hit play, you should be able to see that it doesn't actually work, and that is because our canvas is currently set to screen space overlay. And for this effect to work, you've got to select screen space camera. So we're going to click that, and we need to make sure our main camera is assigned here if it isn't already. And if we press F to view it, you'll see that it's actually in front of the camera, but it is actually intersecting our terrain. So we're going to go to the plane distance and set it to 1. So now it is directly in front of our camera. If we now hit play, you should be able to see the blur effect is working perfectly. And if we click the renderer here in the inspector, we should be able to change the blur properties to increase the amount of blur or decrease it. So not only blur passes, but downsample also controls the blur effect, and more downsample will actually increase performance because it's performing the blur on a smaller image. Also, of course, you can change the tint of the panel. So if you click the image that's acting as the background, as you can see, you can change the color of it. For example, we'll choose a blue, and you can see that it's actually tinting the blur which could be useful if you're making an error where you would make it red, for example. But that is not all, because we can actually create a 3D object which blurs behind it as well. So you might want that in a window, for example. So what we're going to do is create a 3D object, a plane, and I'm going to position this so we can see its effects quite easily. And for its material, we're going to choose lit blur, and this will actually react to lighting. So if we press play now, we should be able to see that this plane is also contributing to the blur. And if we compare that to the unlit blur, as you can see, the unlit blur is a lot brighter because it's not been affected by the light, and that is why we use it for the UI. So just a quick note is that this blur will not actually blur other UI elements. So if I duplicate this panel and position it in front of the other one, as you can see, it's kind of cutting through the panel and you cannot see the text being blurred. But other than that, it works perfectly, and this is still better than no blur. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss another video. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.